Hello, welcome back to Tucker Rhetoric. Today I'll be looking at the concept of colonization in connection to Arabs and Islam. So I think most of the time when we think of colonization, we think of the Europeans, which I understand because they colonized almost the entire planet. However, colonization is something that has gone on throughout human history with the expansion of any empire. That's what they do. So you have the Greeks, the Romans, the Ottomans, the Mongols. The definition of colonize is to settle in and take control of an area. Okay, so I want to look at the Arab conquest, which took place from the early 600s into about the mid 700s, and how they've affected the world as we know it today. So this video will primarily focus on the historical aspects, which have kind of got us to where we are. And then in the second video, I'll look at possibly where it may be going, okay? So we have to first look at these two sides of it. You have what's called Arabization and Islamization, okay? Arabization refers to the Arabic language, culture, and customs, okay? So spreading the language, culture, and customs. And then Islamization deals with the religion, so spreading the beliefs and the customs of Islam. Now, when we think about the Arab conquest, you have to look at the areas that they went into. So Arabs come from the Arabian Peninsula, okay? Any place outside of the Arabian Peninsula, they were not Arabs, all right? I know that it seems weird, but they weren't. Because if you look at, for example, if you look at Egypt, they are Arabic-speaking Islamic country. But historically, they were not, all right? And many others, but I'll get to those in a moment. So Arabs come from Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Oman, and Yemen, okay? Now, these people in this region or area had an Arab identity and culture before Islam, okay? So dating back before Islam. And then I want to look at these specific countries. So if we look at Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, Jordan, Northern Sudan, Syria, Lebanon, Israel, and Iraq. And so we're going to look at how these areas were affected or influenced by the Arab conquest. As I mentioned before, prior to the Arab conquest, they were not Arabic-speaking or Islamic countries. Egypt, they were Coptic and Christians, all right? Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, you had the Berber tribes who were living there, who are still living there. You had an area known as the Levant. So this is a Eastern Mediterranean area which had major civilizations that would make modern-day Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Israel. In Jordan, they were Aramean and Nabatean. I'm sorry if my pronunciation is off on a little bit of these. In Syria, they were Aramean, Greek, Roman, and they had a Christian majority. In Lebanon, they were Phoenician, also had a Christian majority. In Israel, they had the Canaanites, the Jews, the Samaritans, and Christians as well. And in Iraq, they had the Akkadians, the Babylonians, the Assyrians, and the Sumerians. In northern Sudan, they were Nubians, okay? So these were the people who were living in these areas or cultures that existed in these areas prior to the Arab conquest. So when did this actually take place? So in the early 600s, Islam began in Arabia around 1400 years ago. And in 632, you have the death of Muhammad, which was a major help in unifying the Arabian Peninsula, and they began to expand, okay? So this expansion, they first went into Iraq, which was Mesopotamia at the time. They defeated the Persian Empire. This took place between 633 and 637, all right? So this is 1 year after Muhammad's death. Into the Levant, which I mentioned before, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and Israel. 634 to 638, with defeating the Byzantine Empire. In Egypt, this area was taken from the Byzantine Empire, 634 to 642. In Iran, which was Persia at the time, so the Persian Empire, 637 to 651. In Northern Africa, this took place from 647 to 709, roughly. This took a little bit longer because there was a lot of fighting with the Berber tribes, and I think now they've kind of found a way to coexist. And then they also went into Afghanistan, into Central Asia between 650 and 700. All right. So why were they able to expand in such a large area and quickly? Okay. There are several reasons. Number one, good timing. All right. So they had perfect timing. At this time, the Byzantine and Persian Empire were falling apart. They were in decline, and both of them had similar problems. They had economic issues. Their armies were in shambles because they had been at war for the last 20 years. And another major factor was the population resented and or hated them because of the way that they would tax the people. So a lot of these areas welcomed the Arabs when they came into these areas. They saw them as refuge or a change because it wasn't going really well under the Romans and the Byzantines and the Persians, all right? Another reason why they succeeded is because they were very much united and highly motivated, all right? Arabs were united for the first time, and they also had religious motivation, okay? The third reason was because they had mastered desert warfare. They moved quickly. They not only attacked cities, but they would attack supply lines. They used camels, light weaponry, so they were able to outmaneuver large armies, okay? So they could hit you and be gone on to the next thing. Another major reason was, like I said before, that the locals hated their rulers. So the locals may help them, hide them, give them food when they needed it, hide weapons for them, tell them which way to go or where guards are, warn them of attacks that may be coming. And another major reason, not only the taxes, that was not only the major reason why they hated them, but also because of religious persecution, okay? So a major aspect of why the Arabs were successful is because they did not force others to convert. When they took control of these areas, they didn't force them to convert to Islam. They were religiously tolerant, all right? Which meant that you could have your church, you could have your whatever you believe, but you just have to pay a tax, and that's all. Of course, these taxes weren't as bad as what they were paying before. Now, if you did convert, you would have a lower tax rate. So this may have helped with some conversions as well. Maybe everybody wasn't purely based on belief. Some of them maybe wanted lower taxes. And then the last thing, okay, the Arabs they weren't great in numbers, so they couldn't just come in and just rule with power. They had to find a way to kind of appease the people. And another way they were able to spread the Arab identity or their culture was through intermarrying, all right? So these are the major reasons why they were successful in these conquests when they went into these different areas. Now, if we look at the world, we see the world as it is today. So of the countries that I named before, how many of them are Arabic-speaking Islamic countries? All right. Egypt, yes. Libya, yes. Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, Jordan, Northern Sudan, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Iran, and Israel. Now, Israel, they don't only speak Arabic, but there are a lot of people in Israel who speak both Hebrew and Arabic, okay? And you have a lot of Arabs who live in Israel as well. Now, Iran is an Islamic country, but they are not an Arabic-speaking country. So there was more of the Islamization of the country and not the Arabization of the country. Now, I'm saying all of this to say this. Colonization is a thing that has happened throughout history, and the Arabs have also colonized many different areas. And in the next video, I'll be looking at other forms of colonization, because you don't only have to colonize through power and army, but you can also, there's colonization through migration, all right? So I'll get into that later, but I just wanted to give you some historical reference to understand how these countries became Arabic-speaking Islamic countries.